Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Outpost. My name is Dallas. Gonna try to bust through this quick, so sorry for not being over the top thorough. I do have to work this morning, but I'm trying to bust through another episode of one of these because everybody's draft should be starting this next weekend. These are my positional mock drafts. Basically, what you have is I'm drafting from pretty standard roster positions with one quarterback, two running back, two wide receiver, a tight end, a flex, kicker, and defense. Now, we only go 12 rounds, and so if you actually take my advice and listen to what I'm doing, we won't be drafting any kickers or defenses. That's just not in the books in 12 rounds for me. I wait till way later for that. So you can stream both of those. I actually removed kickers out of my home league because they're starting to become more and more pointless. But if you guys like having kickers, you definitely do not need to reach on anything like that. But for tutorial purposes, you guys will not see any kickers go or defenses. You may see some go by the automated draft. But basically what we do is we do this from an 8-man league, 10-team league, and 12-team league. And basically you'll see it changes dramatically as you go on, because 8 team is stacked. If that's all you ever played in, 12 gets a lot more difficult, but it makes you a lot better at fantasy football, especially if you're in an 8-team league and a 12-team league. You're going to dominate the waiver wire in your 8-man league because you play so much deeper in other leagues. So let's go ahead and get this started. Right off the bat, Ezekiel Elliott. So like I said, it doesn't matter. It depends on what the computers do, but if Elliott is back, he's right there at the 101 or 102 between those two. So this isn't too unbelievably uncharacteristic. But in most cases, you get to choose out of these two, or McCaffrey or Kamara. Either one may be gone. So you usually choose out of these two. We're going to go Kamara for today's drafts, primarily because it looks like in PPR Christian's going first. So we'll wait. And this is PPR format. So when it gets back to us, this is actually where I like that two of my top running backs came back to us, and we're going to double stack because of how stacked you can go in this. So we're actually going to go down here and take Joe Mixon. He's my number 7. I have James Conner at my 9, and Dalvin and Todd Gurley are tied at my 10. Okay, well, here's where we're going to go really crazy in triple stack running backs. I typically do not advise this. But in an 8-team league, if you have the best running backs in the league, you almost, I won't say always win, but it's like a surefire lock that you're going to the playoffs. I would have never done this, but we have 3 of my top 10, technically top 9 running backs on the team. We have Alvin Kamara as our number 3/4, him and McCaffrey, I said 1A, 1B. Joe Mixon is my number 7, and you get James Conner at the number 9. Absolutely can't pass that up. So now, here's where you want to make sure you get your wide receivers. So I had this conversation a little bit yesterday where I said now Ty I would take in a heartbeat if Andrew Luck is healthy. It's just he falls so far down if he's not, and it's too risky for me right now. So next is Amari Cooper. Now I said this yesterday. I love Amari Cooper this year if he's my wide receiver 2. I do not like a situation where I have to rely on him as my wide receiver 1, but that's okay, because I did say there is one in this group that I like better than him, and that's Julian Edelman. And this is going to make a little more sense because you got to say, well, isn't that a little risky too? If Edelman's healthy, he's a PPR machine. Even with Josh Gordon back, I think you're going to get a consistent 15 to 20 points out of him every single week, and you can't bash that. That's fantastic. And then we're just going to hope that who we want next is still here. So make sure. All right, so we lucked out. So right now we still have, where's he at? We still have Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods here. So these were the 2 that I was wanting, one or the other. Now, you could argue that Stephon Diggs as well. That's a tough pick, actually. See, for me, Stephon Diggs and Brandon Cooks are the same player, and you usually have to wait and take. You usually can wait and take Brandon Cooks to get the same value. But Stephon Diggs is there. That changes things a little bit. That being said, I'm going with neither of them. I'm going with somebody with more upside, and it's Robert Woods. This is how I sort out between Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods which one I take. So it depends on how good my first one is. And I feel like with Julian Edelman, I'm going to need to strike, and I have the safety net with these 3 running backs. I'm going to need somebody that can hit big, and I think that's Robert Woods. I think Brandon Cooks is more of your safe, going to get you 15 points a week. Two of those guys is actually very, very good to have, but this guy, Robert Woods, can get you 30 out of nowhere, and then he ended up finishing top 10 last year. I think he's absolutely the pick here, just for that upside of, hey, he might break out. If he doesn't break out, he's going to be just as good as Brandon Cooks. And that's the difference. Brandon Cooks will get you that 12 to 15 every single week, whereas you may have a week where Robert Woods only gets you 8, but then he turns around and gets you the 20, 25 every week, and you're sitting a lot better than you would have been with the 15 to 20 a week. So now, based on what's here, I think we go ahead and lock down our wide receivers with one more wide receiver pick here. And it just blows my mind that these guys are going before him. Now, Diggs, you can see, fell all the way to here. But it blows my mind that these guys are going before him. I'm taking Tyler Lockett here, primarily because he's the wide receiver one in Seattle. I absolutely see that being a great pick right there. Now, a lot of you that are Kenny Golladay fans, you could have taken him. I'm not a Kenny Golladay fan at all, especially because of how late you can get Marvin Jones, and I think they're virtually going to end up with the same points. And I don't like Kenny Golladay. His chest injury that he had should have been gone forever ago, and he's still somewhat dealing with it. It seems that he's okay now, but unfortunately, Sonny Michel went, and so the last, in my opinion, higher tier running back that's here, we're going to go ahead and take, and that's Tevin Coleman. I've actually came quite a bit up on Tevin Coleman here lately. Everything just points in the right direction for him. He's been under Kyle Shanahan when he thrived, and a big thing where people are like, well, I think Breeda's going to take over. I don't see a scenario where Breida takes over. I do see a scenario where Breida becomes relevant, but Tevin Coleman has already been a relevant flex guy in a system with somebody else, and that was with Devonta Freeman. So, and it's kind of flipped. He's the main guy, not Breida. So he's going to get the higher upside there. I think he absolutely great flex plug or coming in. I mean, you got to remember, like, these three are going to be our starters every week in this format. You got running back 1, 2, and then your flex right there is just ridiculous. These are all capable of being somebody's running back 1, and you have them as your 1, 2, and 3. That's just a ridiculous stack. So here we're looking in the 8th round. Now, basically, the fact that this fell too is insane. Typically, there's a tight end cutoff, and so that makes this pretty easy for us to go ahead and draft this here. We'll see if he makes it back to us. Maybe. He did. Oh, wow. Okay. He did. Miles Sanders just made it back to us. I was not expecting that at all. Miles Sanders could end up, if everything goes his way, even better than Tevin Coleman. So get him a few rounds later, that's fantastic. Now I think we're pretty much solidified on our running backs. It's just ridiculous. We have great wide receivers too, but we're going to go ahead and tidy that up as well and see what round we are. All right, we can wait. Yeah, we can wait a whole nother series and take with our last pick our quarterback we want. So now, if we're looking at wide receivers, I'm going to take the one that I'm a huge fan of. It's a lot of talks that he may end up being the number 1 guy, especially considering his number 1 goes a whole 2 rounds earlier. So we're going to go ahead and take Curtis Samuel here. I'm not an Allen Robinson guy. I don't have faith in that. I think it's too back and forth for my liking, for my comfortability. So I'm just going to pass on that. Now, here's something that's pretty interesting that we're going to look at here. So we could solidify wide receiver by taking another one, but you also have the argument of right here you have Vance McDonald just chilling here waiting to be picked up. Now, typically I would say think about it, especially if you haven't drafted your tight end. We got O.J. Howard, and I think tight end something that unless you have like Travis Kelce, I don't see a scenario where you start a tight end as your flex unless you struck gold and draft the Kittle of this year, or you reached and took Kelce and Ertz or Kelce and Kittle. I could see that, but aside from that, I don't see you starting 2 of these lower tier guys because of the value you can get at other positions. So we're going to go ahead and tie the knot on our wide receivers by going down here and taking D.D. Westbrook. Kalen Ballage is also a great pick right here, but we're going to take D.D. just to lock down because I feel like we're pretty solidified in our running backs here. I think we're just fine. And when it comes back to us, we're going to take the quarterback that we want. And you'll see in a lot of these, this is the quarterback I'm taking in almost every single one of these streams. That's because I highly recommend it. It's just, well, see, now this is ridiculous. If Andrew Luck is here in round 12, I think you can argue to go ahead and take back-to-back QBs. If or take him and wait a few more rounds. Let's see what's down here, because I'm perfectly okay with, yeah, Philip Rivers is a top 10 for me. A lot of people are high on Lamar Jackson. Dak Prescott's an 11 right here. In an 8-team league, though, if we're going off of my top 8, the tail end of that would be Jared Goff, which is right here. So we'd have to go back-to-back. You could take Andrew Luck and then Cam Newton, or Andrew Luck and Jared Goff, or you can take Andrew Luck and wait and go like Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston even, if you like that route. That's probably what I would realistically do here. But yeah, let's go ahead and do it, and I'll just show you. We'll go one more round to show you what I'm meaning. The one I really wanted to draft was Cam Newton, so we'll go ahead and take him too, and that's where we're going to end it. Typically, we only do the 12 rounds, but I did 13 because that is, I mean, Andrew Luck was the quarterback 2 for almost all formats leading up before he had this injury. So if this injury ends up being just fine, you just got Andrew Luck in the 12th round. That could potentially be an insane steal. So let's assume Andrew Luck is healthy. And the reason I say assume that is if you can't just picture that for yourself, just put Cam Newton in a slot. That's why we went one more. Cam Newton was who we were going to take until I looked up and seen Andrew Luck there. So we've got Andrew Luck. And then our running backs, this is just ridiculous. Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon with James Conner as our flex. This right here might be, you're going to absolutely destroy your league. Let's take a quick glance. Elliott and Sonny Michel, Saquon. Now, if this pans out, this guy's stacked at running back too because he took 15 of them. But his wide receiver one's Calvin Ridley, then Mike Williams, Pettis, Mecca. Yeah, I'm perfectly content with going up against this person because I'm going to beat him here. And I'm gonna match him at least here if that pans out. So, and then Christian McCaffrey, Juju, Antonio, Josh Jacobs, Marmite. This one's a nice team too, though. With Zach Ertz there, that's not bad at all. I still would prefer mine, but that is not bad at all. Stacked wide receivers here, but his running backs are those two: Nick Chubb, Kerryon, and David Montgomery. If Nick Chubb works out, that's not bad at all. Hopkins and Keenan Allen. That's not horrible. I definitely think you dominate this league, though, with that stack. That's just ridiculous. Week in, week out, and you have a solidified wide receiver core as well. I think you did great. If this is your team you end up with. So OJ Howard at our tight end, my last valuable tight end, in my opinion. I don't have value on Hunter Henry just because I've not seen it yet. I don't know what people are going off of with this hype train that he's got. I guess with Antonio Gates being gone, but then like I said, James Conner at your flex. Lockett to back up the wide receivers as well as Curtis Samuel, D.D. Westbrook. That's all three huge potential to end up being their wide receiver ones. That is your one. That's most likely your one, and he's worked his way up to possibly being the one. Tevin Coleman is the one. Miles Sanders has worked his way up to that point too at running back, and that's great. Cam Newton to basically make you feel comfortable about that Andrew Luck pick. That's a great team right there. So we're going to go ahead and resume and then end. That's our 8-man, or 8-team, whatever you want to say. Now we're going to go back, create the draft board, go ahead and draft settings. I said sorry for just flying through these. I do have to work here in I have to leave in 30 minutes, and I'm trying to make sure I get through all this before I leave. But I do need, I'm slacking on putting these out. I needed to come out with these a lot sooner. Because everybody's doing their drafts, and I wanted to have these all up before they do them. So my goal is to have them all up before this weekend because I know everyone is going to be wanting to get them done. So let me go ahead and begin this draft. Saquon, Alvin Kamara, easy pick here. We're taking McCaffrey. Again, if Elliott is back, scratch all this. I'm taking him anywhere I can get him. But if not, then we're absolutely going Christian McCaffrey here. Like I said, it's for me, I'm happy with either one of the two that fall. Somehow, I've never seen Saquon fall further than, I've seen him in the 3 once or twice, but mostly I've never seen him fall past really the 1, but no further than the 2. Alright, so here, again, this one's actually pretty interesting. So we're going to go a little bit of a different route here and let you guys see how your team can stack up. I'm going to go ahead and take Travis Kelce here. When it comes back to us, hope we get, okay, that was exactly who I was going to take with the second pick, so that's a freaking fantastic snag there. So let me go ahead and pause it real quick and explain. If you're taking Travis Kelce in round 2, or reaching and taking him round 1, what you guys need to remember and look at is this is your wide receiver 1. That is the only way to look at this, and we'll come back to that and I'll explain why when we look over the team. Why this, if you look at that as your wide receiver 1, you're not going to worry at all about the rest of your team. And so I'm going to go ahead and resume. And you'll see how that ends up paying off too, because people are like, well, yeah, and it's your tight end, so it's a great spot. Yeah, people usually stop there on the explanation and don't go back and look at the receivers and see why it's such a great pick. So same situation here. We're able to snag Julian Edelman as our wide receiver 1, which is perfectly fine. See which one we get coming back to us. Actually get to pick out of both, so we're going to go Robert Woods again. Like I said, if you want Robert Woods or Brandon Cooks, go either way. I think you're going to strike gold with both. I definitely don't. I don't think you should ever draft. A lot of people have that question, like, should I take 2 of them? And like, I'd be happy with 2 of them on the same team. And I wouldn't be, because if Jared Goff has a bad game, you suffer dramatically if you have 2 of those players that rely on that out. So I don't recommend that at all. So here is where, if we didn't have Travis Kelce, we would probably take Evan Ingram to solidify that. But the great part about this is we don't have to, because we already have our tight end. So here's where we're going. Tevin Coleman. Again, like I said, he's one of the tail end best running backs that are there. I really like Miles Sanders too. That's probably who we'll try to get if it comes back around. Go ahead and see who falls off the board. Hey, we got him. So, like I said, we're solidifying that running back position. I always like to try to have 4, because I like to always play a running back, 3 running backs in my 2 in the flex. If you have good running backs that you can play as your flex starter instead of wide receivers, even in PPR, I think you're going to end up succeeding more often than not. And so we're going to go ahead and take Miles Sanders here. You could take Austin Eckler. These 2, I think, are going to get you the same output. It's just Miles Sanders is going to outlast, whereas Austin Eckler, as soon as Gordon comes back, is going to take a hit from that. So we're taking Miles Sanders here. And again, that's because there's so much talent wide receiver-wise throughout this draft. The later you go, that you can do stuff like that and be perfectly fine. Not to mention, I like Miles Sanders better than all these wide receivers that have went off the board so far. There's only been 4. Yeah, there's only 4 wide receivers that went off the board between that and our last pick. So here, again, we're going to take our Curtis Samuel. I have high hopes for him this year, but I really like Robbie Anderson too. So I completely understand either one of these picks. Hold on. That's I am leaving. Not leaving yet, but essentially that was an alarm for work. So, but we're going to pass on Robbie Anderson. I have a little bit more faith in Carolina's offense, and I think Curtis Samuel is going to be a focal point in that. And so we're going to go ahead and take that and see what comes back to us here. All right, so now we want to kind of take a look at how our team's lining up. You have time on your picks. This is where you want to use it. If you don't, like, once you get to this point, it's really dependent on your team. And so we got 1, 2, 3, 4 running backs and 1, 2, 3 wide receivers. But like I said, remember, Travis Kelce is your wide receiver 1. And so you can look at that however you need to. But we'll just say, hey, we probably need to solidify our wide receivers a little bit better. And that's where, again, I'm a huge Dante Pettis fan, but I am, from what I've been seeing lately, it would be irresponsible of me to ignore what we've seen out of Jimmy Garoppolo and how they've been using Pettis. So for now, we're going to go ahead and move on past that and take Dede. I have high hopes for him. I think he's going to do great this year. So that's who we're taking. Let's go ahead and wait a second. Did he go already? Not him. I am overlooking. Yeah, okay, he's right above him. I was like, I'm overlooking Fitzgerald. I usually get to choose out of these 2. And I like Dede's opportunity as the 1, but if Dede's gone, I really like Larry Fitzgerald as well. But taking Dede Westbrook here. Go ahead and let it run on through. And here is where you can see we took a risk, hoping we can get our quarterback, and we didn't. He went there. And so it's okay, because there is 1 more that we're okay with. Well, 2 more, actually. And that's Jared Goff. And if it doesn't work out with Jared Goff, then Jameis Winston. So we can go ahead and take somebody that we think may not make it back to us here, because we're going to wait. We're going to go down and take Marvin Jones. Just kind of solidify. Like I said, I use that term a lot, but we're solidifying these positions with their value and their depth. Jared Goff went, so that's fine. I knew we were taking that risk, and so we finish it off with Jameis Winston here. I'm perfectly okay with that. I actually have him as my QB9 this year. And in a 10-man league that's still starting QB, and your depth everywhere else is too good to pass up. So I took a risk here. I could have taken Jared Goff, and maybe Marvin Jones came back, but I didn't think Marvin Jones was going to, and I was okay with taking Jameis if we had to. And with the last pick, we're going to go ahead and get us one more running back, one of the last running backs that I think holds like true value this late, and that's right here because Devin Singletary just went as well, I believe. Yeah, right there. So Devin Singletary and Breida. So our last valuable running back, in my opinion, that's here is where's he at? Adrian Peterson. So we're gonna go ahead and go up, pause the draft, and we'll show you what we got now. So this is where I was talking about keep an eye at your wide receivers and viewing Travis Kelce as your wide receiver one. So we're gonna go and save that for last on our explanation here. So Jameis Winston at QB, I'm perfectly okay with that. I have no issues with that at all. If he doesn't pan out, go get you another one. It's no big deal. Christian McCaffrey, Joe Mixon as our two running backs, and this is crazy because we got Mixon in the third. That is in a 10-team league. I've never seen that happen. So to get that in the third is just ridiculous. We were just going to take carry on and be okay with it, but Mixon was there. So I'm more than content with that. Carry on went one pick after up there if you look. And so now our wide receivers, well, let's go ahead and go through. Tevin Coleman's our flex. And our bench, we've got Miles Sanders, Curtis Samuel, D.D. Westbrook, Marvin Jones, and Adrian Peterson. Peterson, I think, is going to be a starter. I have no faith in Darius guys at all, but some people do. If so, more power to you. It's just something I'm not comfortable with. So now, this is where it gets interesting and why I tell you to look at Travis Kelce as your wide receiver one. So our wide receiver one is Travis Kelce, who, if he was an actual wide receiver, would probably finish as like the wide receiver 7 or 8. That's a fantastic pick, especially in the late second round. And our wide receiver 2 is Julian Edelman. This is where it gets interesting. That's where people usually stop. Our tight end is Robert Woods. Think about that for a second. Robert Woods' production, that's going to get you 15 to 20 a week. That is a insane tight end. Usually, most tight ends get you 8 to 12, and they just stop there. Those are consistent good ones. You have some that get you 6 or 7, but he's got potential to get you 20 to 30, and there's not a whole lot of tight ends that can do that. And so when you're wide receiver 2, if you view them as your tight end because your tight end is your wide receiver 1, it gets a little bit mixed up and loopy there. That is absolutely, points-wise, even better than you could have gotten had you taken a running back or a tight end right there, or a running back or a wide receiver there, and then waited and taken like Evan Ingram, who's going to be a great guy, great tight end, but you're looking at, you know, on a great week, 12 to 15 points is a great week for him, whereas Travis Kelce, somebody's going to be out there getting you 30. Like, it's ridiculous how many points this man puts up. And so, when you view it that way, it makes Travis Kelce a very, very valuable pick, and that's why I don't ever bash anybody on taking him early, because I treat it like your wide receiver 1. And he's a very good wide receiver 1 because of his points he gets. But even better, you don't have to line him up that way. You line him up against other people's tight ends and still get the value here. Like, I'm not forced to play him as a wide receiver and then I have to take a tight end. I took my tight end, but he's going to get more value than most people's wide receiver 1s. Well, not most, but a lot of people's. Great draft there. Super happy with that. So we're going to go ahead and resume and end. So let's go back. Maybe. There we go. Got our last one right here. Go ahead, draft settings. Change this to 12 teams. 12. Update. Alright, let's go ahead and begin. This is where it gets really interesting because things mix up a bunch. Oh, I didn't. No, hold on. My bad. Probably help if I claimed a spot. There we go. Again. Wow, okay. Well, like I said, in no world does this happen, but if it does, it's a no-brainer. You're taking Saquon. That's not even a question. He's my number 1 in any format. So I've explained that multiple times, so for those of you questioning it a little bit, go back to our first positional mock draft. I talk about it a little bit in that, or my top 10 running backs. I have him at my number 1. I go in depth why I think he's going to be just fine. I know a lot of people are like, oh, they stacked the boxes on him. That's perfectly okay. So here, like I said, in any and all formats, I like to solidify and lock down my running back position. But we're going to be a little risky here, and that's because I think we can still get Damian Williams with our next pick, even though I'd love to take carry on right here. I think we're going to miss out on an opportunity at a really, really solid wide receiver one here with Keenan Allen, if he's healthy. So I guess technically we'll hold off on that because if I had to draft today, I'd probably pass on him because of that injury risk. Adam Thielen and Amari Cooper are the same on my boards. I'm not an Adam Thielen fan. I don't have him this high of value. I think he's great, and I would take him as my wide receiver two, or if I had to wait a late wide receiver one. But I'm not on Thielen's team, so we're gonna take carry on here and see what falls back to us. We may get lucky. Oh, okay. So here's where you put your money where your mouth is, kind of thing. With I just said, I'm not an Adam Thielen fan, but we got to look at the board here, what's here. So I'm not going to scroll all the way down here and take one of these guys when I can get one of them anyway when it comes back around. So I think the best thing to do is going to be to take Adam Thielen here or Amari Cooper, but I'm more on Adam Thielen's side as your wide receiver one than I am Amari Cooper. But if they're your wide receiver two, I'm taking Cooper over Thielen because of his upside. So I guess we'll solidify it. Again, if luck was here, it's a no-brainer. I'm taking TY every day of the week, but we're taking Adam Thielen. We'll roll with it. I know I just said I'm not a huge Adam Thielen fan, but in the third round, that's not a horrible pick at all, especially considering if it has to be my wide receiver one. It's a boomer bust kind of pick because if he plays the whole year like he did the second half of last season, then you really messed up. But couldn't have asked for a better guy to come back to. So of that group, this is the most consistent in my opinion, the safest one. And I have a little bit of a risky one with my first one. That's how I usually define whether I take Robert Woods or Brandon Cooks. If I get a choice out of them both, this is my first one is solid and I'm happy with it. I take Robert Woods unless I have to wait and take two guys out of this tier. Then I need the upside of Robert Woods. But if I have a solidified upside wide receiver, I take Robert Woods just because of his capability of being able to bust. But we got Adam Thielen, who or not bust, boom, and Adam Thielen here is going to be he should be solid, but I do have my questions with him. So if I had the choice of the two, I'm taking Brandon Cooks here because it helps, but I don't. I get the guy that I wanted anyway. So now, when it comes back around, we absolutely have to take a running back here. And so when we look at what's left, we got James White and Tevin Coleman. You guys already know where I'm going with this here. We're going to take Tevin Coleman because at this point, I think that's just good depth to have. And I would have liked to have gotten Sonny Michel there, but unfortunately he went right before us. So we ended up having to take him. I would have also loved a Josh Jacobs or a David Montgomery, but they keep moving up the board, so they're never going to be here anymore at 4. So because I would have passed that up and taken Tyler Lockett right here if I could have. If one of those running backs were still there, but they weren't, and that's okay. So here, this is one I said yesterday in my positional mock draft too. I still, to this day, have no idea why he's falling this far. I don't get it at all, and I would have taken Evan Ingram here or O.J. Howard, but they fell. They are going so early now. In a 12-team league, it changes everything. And so we're going to go Alshon. I still don't get why he's this far down. I will probably never understand that, but we're waiting on tight end, and Vance McDonald's the one I like to target in the 9th or 10th round, and he's moved all the way up to the 7th to the point where I don't take him either. So we just kind of live with it. So now we're looking at our team. We've got 3 wide receivers, 3 running backs. I think we're going to go ahead and take another really solid pick at running back because I think he's got good value whether or not Kamara's there, and that's Latavius Murray. And if Kamara goes down, then you strike gold with that pick. But I look for him to be your Mark Ingram this year. I don't think he's as good as Mark Ingram, but he's still going to be a good, hey, I got to start to flex this week because I got a bye week, and you and you throw him in. I think you're perfectly content with that. I think you can live with it and be just fine. Here's where typically I would go D.D. Westbrook, and I still might, actually, but I feel like we need to lock up these running backs a little bit better, and so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Kalen Ballage. I think he's got more upside than D.D., and so we're going to take Kalen Ballage. I would have loved Marvin to come back to us here, but he didn't, unfortunately. That's where we look and see. Yeah, Cam Newton already went. Kyler already went. We got Jared Goff right there. Russell and Jameis won't make it back. So here we're gonna go ahead and take Jared Goff as we need our quarterback in 12 teams. Round 9 is usually where I end up taking them. Cam Newton went in the 7th in this, which is just unheard of. I don't see him go that early in any, but he's moving his way up the boards now, and I'm happy to see it. Not for me because I really wanted to pick him, but it's one of those things where like I have him higher valued than most people do. So here we need a wide receiver, and so we're gonna take a look and see what we've got. And the next one that we're actually excited about is down here actually, is Tyrell Williams is the one I like the best out of these that are right here. So we go back up to the top. I like the argument for Moncrief, but I think you have a better argument for Tyrell Williams, and because I like him better than every single one of these guys right here, I'm not a James Washington fan. I'm going to go ahead and take one of my favorite running backs, and that's Devin Singletary. Here's where we take Tyrell Williams. We're going to go ahead and snag him up real quick. I like him and Michael Gallup, but I think Michael Gallup you can wait a little bit later on, of course. But Tyrell Williams, I think, has a really, really good opportunity this year to have what I call baby juju opportunity. If you go watch my sleepers, I gave you guys 10. Tyrell Williams and Michael Gallup are both on there. And so let's see what comes back to us. It looks like right here when we look at what we have, he end up going, we could actually take Michael Gallup here if we wanted with our last pick, but we need to look and see what tight ends are on the board. The tight end that I'm looking for late is Greg Olsen and Mark Andrews. So because we only go to 12 rounds, we wouldn't take him here. So we're going to go ahead and take Michael Gallup. Like I said, I have high hopes for him. I don't advise that, though, if you have Amari Cooper, obviously, but I'm perfectly okay with this. If you were the guy that took Ezekiel Elliott, here's where you'd absolutely take Tony Pollard. I know we're supposed to stop around 12, but I'm just showing you here's where I would then go down and take me Greg Olsen, Mark Andrews, Kyle Rudolph, Jordan Reed, any of those four. Let me see if there's any others I'd throw in that category. No, just those four. Any of those, whichever one is your favorite. My favorite this year is definitely Greg Olsen, but Mark Andrews is right there with him. So we took that. We're going to end it here. The only reason we went or let me pause it. The only reason we went one further than we typically do is so we could get a tight end, and I could show you the lineup here. So this is a 12-team league. You got Jared Goff at your QB. Perfectly okay with that. He's my QB 8. Saquon Barkley at the 3rd. That is ridiculous. If you ever get that, absolutely snag it. You're already at an advantage with that alone. Then Kerryon Johnson. Love him this year. Don't love the fact that he's rising on the boards. He's somebody that I would like to take in a 10-team league. I take in the 3rd round. I've got 4 or 5 guys that I would take. And so I end up passing on him and hope he comes back. And if he doesn't, I'm okay with Damian. I have Damian above him. And so, exactly, well, yeah, I'd take Damian before him anyway. So it's okay. So our wide receivers, Adam Thielen. If you guys are Thielen fans, this team looks amazing. I'm not huge on Thielen. That's why I'm a little bit back on this, but it was the best option we had. Keenan Allen almost made it to us. I would have taken him over that. But we passed on Keenan Allen in a second because of that injury right now. We're not sure how it's going to look. Looks like they pulled him out of the preseason completely, and it depends how much practicing he's doing. So if he's out there fully practicing and it's just a precautionary thing because of it, then he's fine. But if he's light in practice too because of it, then I don't like that. Not a good start to start your season off. If he ends up being great, then you just kind of bite your tongue and just live with it. So, but we solidified over Brandon Cooks, so I think is one of the most consistent guys you can get that late, and so absolutely happy with that. And then we've got Greg Olsen at our tight end. Again, we waited. We probably could have waited another round for that, but we went ahead and took it in the 13th round just to kind of show you guys how late you can wait on tight ends if you miss on those top guys, especially if you don't want to reach on them, because where round 6, what do we get? Alshon, it's great wide receiver depth there. Round 5, when the other went, Tevin Coleman, solidifying our running backs there as our RB3. And then round 4, when O.J. Howard went, we took Brandon Cooks. And so Kerryon when Travis Kelce didn't come close, but Kerryon and Adam Thielen where Zach Ertz and Kittle would have potentially went. I think you strike gold with this depth, waiting this far, getting Greg Olsen, who could potentially be great. And if he's not, it's okay. Like, you didn't spend that much on him. Just go get you another one that you have faith in. There's going to be one that starts rising up that nobody even thought about anyway. I mean, they're all starters. I mean, Jason Witten started for Dallas. Eifert, if he's healthy, is going to be great. Darren Waller's another great sleeper tight end for Oakland. You got Cameron Brate. If something happens to O.J. Howard, he is known to be injured. Disley for Seattle, people are a lot high on him. Chris Herndon, I love him this year. He's just suspended the first 4 games. So you have to wait on that one. Uzuma, if Eifert doesn't work out. I mean, you've got so many options here where if Greg Olsen doesn't pan out, like I'm taking, but yeah, that was down low. I mean, I wasn't even up here at the top. Jimmy Graham, if he works out. Trey Burton, another one a lot of people like. I like these two. These are the 2 that I genuinely would draft. The rest of these are all backups that you could end up taking. Noah Fant, I just don't recommend the rookie tight ends. It usually doesn't go well. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you've got all this here to where taking Greg Olsen that late is perfectly fine. If he doesn't work out, then you just move on to the next one. So our bench, Alshon and Tyrell Williams and Michael Gallup. I love these two's potential. Everybody's already starting to see that Michael Gallup's rising. I was talking about this last year because of how excited I was about him. And his opportunity is just amazing. Tyrell Williams, same thing. Baby Juju opportunity because he's lining up on the opposite side of Antonio Brown, and Antonio Brown's going to get all that attention. The reason I say baby Juju opportunity is I don't think he's as talented as Juju, so he won't capitalize quite like Juju did, but he'll still see significant increase in his production. I think closer to what he did a few years ago when everybody actually liked him, and then he fell off a cliff. I think he's going to work his way back into relevance, a new team, new quarterback. They're changing the whole atmosphere there, so it's great. Latavius Murray is going to be a solid player anyway, even if Kamara's there. If something happens to Kamara, that's a snag and a half. Kalen Ballage has worked his way up to 50-50 splits already with Kenyon Drake, and Kenyon Drake's hurt, so now Kalen Ballage is that guy. So depending on the extent of that injury, you got super good value here. I think he's going to ultimately end up winning the job anyway. And Devin Singletary, I think, is your Nick Chubb this year. I think about, who knows, whenever they finally decide to pass the torch from LaShawn McCoy this season, he's going to take over, and I believe he's going to end up being a 3-down back if they don't trade LaShawn McCoy before then. So I am super happy with this team as well in a 12-team league. You absolutely can compete. And this is just the start. You can work through trades to improve wherever you need to improve. You're absolutely locked down at running back with just the one, but having both of these, that's a great, great stack. I love this team. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in the draft. Alrighty. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Fantasy Football Outpost. That has been our positional mock draft. Pick number 3. And number 4 should be hopefully tonight. I'm going to try to come out and do one more stream with that. We'll see how that works out for us. And then number 5, we'll see when I can get that done. That'll probably be our podcast episode this week, is we'll do our news at the beginning and our Q&A afterwards. But the middle of it, the topic is going to be our positional mock draft number 5, I would assume. Or 4 if I'm not able to get 4 done in time. We do record those on Wednesdays, and they go live on Thursdays. And so I'll make sure, and then Thursday night, we'll make sure we get number 6. And depending on how I'm feeling, maybe even number 7. And then Friday, we get 8 and 9, something like that. And then Saturday, try to bust out the last ones. Because 10, once you get to 9, they're shorter anyway. So, and 11 and 12 are 2 drafts. That's it. So that would be less than what we did in today's episode. So nonetheless, thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you in the next one. Keep a lookout for that podcast. Share this anywhere. I appreciate all the support we've gotten so far. You guys have been amazing with all the feedback. I truly enjoy it. I felt I had something to offer with fantasy football advice, and I wanted to put that out there. I was inspired really by a couple people, or one in particular, that I didn't agree with what they were saying. I didn't think they were good takes at all, and I was like, if this is what people are buying into, like, surely to goodness this is something I could get my foot in. There's plenty of great ones out there too, don't get me wrong on that, but there are some out there that I just, not to insult them, like, everybody has their own opinions, and they could be absolutely right because it's a game of luck, but it's a game of probability, and I just don't see those takes as good, and it is enough to inspire me to say, hey, I think I have something of value to bring to the table in the fantasy football community. And so I've been doing it, and I just appreciate it. Like I said, my main channel, I think it's in the description of this. It should be. My main channel isn't even anything to do with this. It's a gaming channel. So I decided to start this up, too, as a side thing, and I'm really enjoying how things have went so far. So nonetheless, though, thank you all for watching. Those of you that did tune in, and make sure you send this anywhere anybody that might enjoy it. So this has been the Fantasy Football Outpost. My name is Dallas, and we'll see you in the next one.